Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hope Ropes. I am your host, Vanessa Azelis, and I share stories of hope and transformation, stories of healing. And I just invite you to get comfortable and listen with an open heart and open mind and grab onto these hope ropes. Today's guest, which I'm really excited about, is living proof that healing is possible, even when you've been told it isn't. Now, Rachel is a creator and an educator who is so passionate about nervous system healing, nutrition, and faith. In her early 20s, she went through a devastating chronic illness journey that left her bedbound with severe pain and complex symptoms. Over time, she received multiple diagnoses, including POTS, Ehlers-Danlos, spinal instability, chronic Lyme, and so much more. Doctors told her she would likely be sick for the rest of her life, and her best option was to just manage her symptoms through medication and surgeries. And she followed that path for years, yet only became sicker. But thankfully, God led her down a different path. And by learning to support her nervous system through brain retraining, somatic practices, belief work, food, and connection with nature, she experienced a full recovery. And today she's healthy, thriving, and a new mom. And she shares her story to encourage others to cultivate safety in their minds and bodies and remember that our bodies are designed to heal. So, welcome, Rachel.
Thank you. Thank you for that intro, Vanessa. And I just really appreciate you having me on. I've been looking forward to this for a while now. And Vanessa and I have known each other for quite a long time. And I see you as a kindred spirit. And I love the work that you're doing and just really looking forward to our chat.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to it. And yes, for those listening, we have known each other for a while. I remember when I started my Instagram account, like probably the first year. This is way back. I remember following you. I found you, and I just remember witnessing the surgeries, like your journey,
Mhm.
and just like my heart just aching for you as you were going through all of that. And then to be able to down the line actually support you and be a part of your journey, with supporting you with some coaching and in Haven, but to be able to witness with my own eyes some of that evolution it's remarkable. So it's such a gift for me.
Oh, well, thank you for that. So sweet.
Yeah. So so tell us, let's kind of backtrack because I want people to really hear about where this all started for you.
Absolutely. So, during my childhood and teenage years, I definitely had some signs of things going on with my health. But overall, I lived a pretty normal childhood and teenagehood. Um, During high school, I did have a year where I was quite sick, and looking back on my illness journey when I got really sick later, that was definitely not as severe in comparison. But at the time, it was big, and I was diagnosed at that time with celiac disease, and um, after kind of addressing that and going gluten free, I was able to have some good years. And um, flash forward to when I was in college, I was a typical college student, and I was definitely a yes girl, and so I just said yes to everything. Like I took on too much. I had that high achiever traits. I had no concept of how to rest and care for my nervous system and nourish my body properly. And so, as we all know, that kind of works until it doesn't. And so, when I was about 20 years old, I experienced, I guess, what you would call my perfect storm. And I just started coming down with episodes of dizziness and pre-syncope or syncope and severe migraines, brain fog, just all these symptoms coming up. And eventually I sought care from the Western medicine model, and I went to doctors. And throughout this time, I was diagnosed with a whole laundry list of
Yeah.
chronic conditions. I know you're very familiar with that. And I'll name some of these
Yeah,
just
please
because I
do.
think it can be beneficial for people that, have these labels and are in a different place in their healing journey. But I do want to be clear before I go into sharing about that I don't identify with or claim any of these illnesses anymore. But I share because I want to encourage people who were in a place that I was in the past. And so some of these diagnoses that was given were dysautonomia or POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome or EDS, Chiari malformation, cranial cervical instability, tethered cord syndrome, intracranial hypertension, gastroparesis, adrenal insufficiency, chronic Lyme disease. The list goes on. Those aren't the only ones, but those are some of the main ones that really were coming up a lot. And so those came like throughout the years as I was kind of going through ebbs and flows of this chronic illness. And eventually, I got even sicker. And this is right after I got married, actually. I had kind of, I guess, what you could call a second perfect storm. So I went from kind of like a little bit more functioning, but still extremely sick to like have to quit my job, spending all my time in bed, barely able to walk and move, and just extremely debilitated with pain and symptoms. And um, it was, I guess, what you could say is it was like a living hell,
Yeah.
really. And I know you know that. I know you do because I know your story, and I know so many listening will probably relate to that as well. And it just felt like there was no way out. And we traveled around the country and we saw like top doctors for, and I put air quotes, but and these doctors were all well-meaning. Like we actually had some really positive experiences with doctors, and they were doing their best, but they just didn't have what I needed to help me to heal. And I had several serious surgeries, neurosurgeries. I think it was 5 over the years, and I tried all sorts of medications, but I was so sensitive that, like, I honestly didn't stay on many medications because I just reacted to everything, even supplements. And so, um, eventually, I came to a point where I just had this gut feeling that if I was going to get better, if I was going to be able to keep living, honestly, because I feel like at this point, like I was on the brink of death, honestly. And that's what it felt like every day. It felt like I was dying. Just crippling symptoms, pain, neurological symptoms, nausea, brain fog, dizziness, vertigo, chest pain, like all of it,
Yeah.
insomnia. Like it was insane. And I just wondered, like, how do I live like this? How do I keep living like this? But I did have a feeling that I had there was a reason I needed to keep going. And I kinda had that feeling all along, and I didn't really know what that reason was, but I felt it. And I also felt like I was being recommended another major surgery. And I just in my head, I was thinking, "Okay, we've done all these things, we've followed all these recommendations, yet here I am sicker. Like, I don't think that I can handle this. I don't think that my body can handle this." And it didn't feel right in my body, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what I needed, but I knew that it wasn't that. So then and there, I decided I'm going to be open-minded to anything, and I'm going to be willing to try anything. And we actually had a neighbor that recommended this book called You Are the Placebo by Joe Dispenza. I know
Yep.
you're familiar. And I read it from my bed, because that's where I was spending all my time. And I was so uncomfortable the whole time. And then all these concepts introduced in this book about like self-healing and beliefs and how the body can heal, all these examples of people healing from even genetic conditions that are really said to be incurable. I said to myself, like, if these stories are true, if this is true, that's crazy. And honestly, I didn't like feel super drawn to Joe Dispenza's work. I mean, I think, he's amazing and has done amazing work, but it was something that planted a seed.
Yeah.
And I know that you experience similar as well, where like there are all these seeds that are planted until you're really ready to like make the leap and jump into this self-healing space. Even before I started brain retraining, so I guess I'm jumping ahead here, but I had heard of programs like DNRS and Gupta program and everything like that years before I even considered it. And in my head, I was just like, oh, that's not what I need. I have a real physical illness. This is real. That sounds like a hoax. I don't know how that could help me. Not even really taking the time to dive into the science of that was behind that. And so in time, God just started to show me these little things that were kind of these tiny little nudges that were just like giving me little tiny pieces of progress. And I even started acupuncture, and that was it helped just a little bit. And I lucked out with somebody that recognized how sensitive I was. And so I started with like a couple needles for 5 minutes or whatever. And it built from there. And that wasn't what got me better, but it was like just these things that I was like looking elsewhere to try. I ended up also changing my diet, changing the way that I ate. And I had tried a lot of diets in the past, but felt drawn to kind of like an animal based way of eating. And that really helped me a lot. But when it came to after about 8 months of that, I saw a lot of progress. I started being able to like sit up more and like I was like cooking my meals from a chair and just like these little glimmers of things. But at that point, I still was like not able to walk to the end of my driveway.
Yeah.
I was still spending most of my time in my bed, and I felt like something was missing. And I had actually really started to like the idea of brain retraining at that point. I had just kind of like started following some people online who had been doing that and felt drawn to it. And actually, interestingly enough, like I had been sharing my chronic illness journey all throughout this experience before I started healing.
Yeah.
And I felt a little bit resistant to actually diving in to brain retraining because I was like, well, like this is what kind of feel called to like sharing about this. And a lot of these
Mm.
brain retraining programs are like, oh, you can't talk about symptoms. You can't talk about this and that. And I was like, maybe I'll just talk about not talking about symptoms. And
That's a start.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I just, kind of shared about that journey and started with DNRS in, I think it was 2022, maybe? Not sure. And I saw really quick progress with it. And I know everybody is different,
Yeah.
but I think I had started incorporating brain retraining without even knowing it before I started this. And so, like, you also have to remember, I think I had heard about brain retraining 5 years before I start. So, is like all these seeds and all these things that I were doing kind of led me up to this versus I think if I had started it, like, it would have
Yeah.
looked different if I had started it years ago. But because I was like, it was just the timing of it for me really helped. And I was so excited for it too. I was like pumped. I am going to get better. And like I don't think I would have felt that way if I had started it at a different point in my journey. So if you don't feel that way, it's okay. Like it's 100% okay if you're not there yet. But that this is just my story. And so in I think 3 or 4 weeks of doing this, I went from not being able to walk to the end of my driveway to being able to walk a mile for the first time.
Wow.
And I just that year I went from like needing to use a wheelchair for distances in January to rock climbing for the first time in many
Wow.
years in December.
Wow.
And so that was just like this huge year of physical healing for me. And um it was just incredible the way that God just guided me to these things that I needed to heal. And I think for a long time I was in this mindset of like, okay, well, I just need to like get to a place where I'm just managing these symptoms and like illnesses better. But then I had this shift where I was like, wait, what if I could fully get better? What if I could not be sick anymore? And even just that shift in that, like, possibility, that curiosity in my mind was a huge turning point for me.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's even pause there for a moment because that what if, I mean,
Mhm.
is so incredibly powerful because it makes space for something.
Yes.
And, so many of us don't start believing 100%, but we can be open to a what if. Like, what if I can heal, right? What if I can get my life back? And what's interesting is I think that you were kind of building, well, you read Joe Dispenza's book, which was one of the first ones that I read,
Mhm.
and you started to understand the power of belief. And then you started to, again, it's process, right? And by the time you found the brain retraining, I think you had cultivated a belief in you. Like you said, I'm excited because I know I'm going to heal.
Yes.
And that I think is, we see the power of belief, right? And how sometimes that alone can heal people. You hear stories. It's like, I just, I believe I'm well. I believe I
Yeah.
can do this. And then you have this perfect example of how you started to see some pretty immediate changes
Yeah.
from the get-go. And like you said, not everyone's like that. So I know I didn't believe at first either, like at all. And it still, worked for me, but that belief definitely can catapult healing.
Yes, absolutely. And I do want to make it clear that this is something that I try to share a lot in my own work as well. But, you know, these brain retraining tools and programs and whatever, like, these are just tools. There's nothing secret about it. There's nothing, you know, that you can't necessarily find on your own. It's just really helpful, and when you're in a place like that, to have that resource to learn.
Yeah.
And it's just a toolkit and you can make it your own. And I think that was one of the reasons why I actually did so well with DNRS, because I was like, oh, I don't want to stand up for this practice. I'm just going to do it sitting down. That's fine.
Yeah.
And I just did it. I made it my own and I had fun with it. And I didn't really, I know there's sometimes with certain programs kind of a notion of like, stick to this 100% and that's the only
Yes.
way you can get better. That never resonated with me. And so I just didn't adapt to that line of thinking. And I think that really helped me as well. But, in time, I started adding in other sorts of nervous system support. And, I was following Vanessa and liked her somatic work. And eventually I started to join in on Haven and had some coaching with Vanessa. And that was really powerful for me. And at that point, when I started working with Vanessa, I was already like living a normal life, but it was really helpful to have that, guidance and kind of learn new things, add new things to my toolkit of, nervous system practices that I could be using in my life for healing.
Yeah, and emotional work. I think that was a really big thing that we worked on is
Mm,
beliefs and emotional work. And I
one-
think that's like the more deeper work, right? When you get to that place after having that foundation and safety, and then it's like okay, emotions are here. Maybe I can sit with this now too. Yeah,
Yeah. And I think I got to this point where, like, I don't know if it was 6 months or a year after I started brain rewiring, where I felt like I kind of hit this wall and it was like, oh, now my brain feels safe enough to like, bring up this past trauma. And I'm like, I don't know
Yes.
what to do here, And so I think that's very common for people to experience that. And so just realizing that, a single program is not an end all be all
Yeah.
for nervous system work. And it all comes back to signaling safety to the survival brain.
Yeah.
And there's so many ways you can do that. And that's just, it's so cool because everyone has different things that they resonate with and that they find works best for them. And that can even change at different points in your healing journey. And so just realizing that your nervous system practice can change and evolve as you change and evolve. And I know that's something that you helped. me with too.
Yeah, and I love that you said that because something I preach all the time. There are many pathways to safety and healing.
Yes.
And I think if someone's, out there is trying to sell you that this is the only way, you'd
Yeah.
have to do it my way or you'll never heal, or
Yeah.
you talked about a little of that rigidity and pressure that can come from some programs of if you don't do an hour a day and you don't do it exactly like this and the moon has to be, like this way and the stars have to shine this way, like you're not going to heal. And I think that that is where people get stuck as well. I know it did for me when I was doing brain retraining and I had this pressure of it had to be perfect, which played on my perfectionism and
Yeah.
overachieving. And then it just reinstated that stress response. So you did things differently in that you allowed flexibility, variability, nuance, curiosity, and fun, and you took the pressure off. You let go of the intensity, and you did it your way. And that is my wish for everyone. Like you got to do you. Whatever program that you sign up for or you do, take what resonates and know that you can leave the rest. You can make it your own. And
Yeah.
also know that as you like you said, as you evolve, your practice should evolve to reflect
Yeah.
who you are now. Like it
Absolutely.
shouldn't be the same thing, right?
When you
Yeah.
start getting back into normal life and doing, you know, normal things again, especially if you kind of have this season of severe chronic illness where you're just like cut off from the world, like my practice had to change and evolve when I started doing normal things again. And that's the way it should be, right? Like
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
So bring us to that point where, okay, so you have gotten your life back. We've done some of the emotion work, the belief work, your 2.0, Rachel. And then what?
Yeah. So, I would say, gosh, it's been a while now, but over the years, as I was healing, I was sharing my healing journey, and that just in time kind of turned into a passion for me. And I love just sharing resources about nervous system healing and supporting the nervous system in all different ways. And when people ask me, like, what is the number one thing? I always say supporting my nervous system to allow my body to heal itself. And everything I've done can be tied back to that.
Yes.
Even like changing a lot about the way that I ate and doing so in a way that it's like I'm wanting to nourish my body with foods that help me to feel my best, and I'm not going to care about being 100% perfect, and I'm building this resiliency where I don't have to be perfect, but I do want to care for my body in the way that feels good and right for me. And just things like getting out in nature, grounding, optimizing circadian rhythm and all these things, they just all tie back into signaling safety and the nervous
Yeah.
system. And even, I like to point this out, even if you decide to receive outside support, there is nothing wrong with that. That does not mean you've failed. um, I received support with things like gentle chiropractic treatments, or I had prolotherapy treatments and whatnot. I don't share about these things a lot just because I don't want people to fixate on them and be like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, if I don't get that, I'm not going to heal.
Yeah.
Because I feel passionate that there's always more than one path to healing, always. And if you get in this mindset of like, I need this treatment, that's what's signaling danger to your brain. But what if you were coming at it from a place of curiosity? Like, well, what if this could support what I'm doing with my nervous system? What if this is just another support? And that's what I
Exactly.
started to view if I ever did decide to try to get that outside support, to just see it as what it is. It's support. It's not somebody
Exactly.
coming to save you. And so that's been really helpful for me. And I know a lot of people kind of come into this brain retraining space where they're like on a lot of medications or whatever. And they're like, do I need to come off of everything and stop seeing all doctors right away? And
No.
I'm like, no, you don't. Just go at your own pace and do what feels right to you and listen to your intuition. And yeah, just lean into that and just realize that like healing is a slow process. So Anyway,
It's
I
that black and white thinking, I think, that puts
yeah,
us it gets us in trouble, but it also reinforces the stress response. But, I know I share all the time. It's not black and white.
yeah,
At different seasons, you're gonna need different supports. And I am not the person to say you can just focus on this and that let that be what your focus is and let everything else go, because a lot of these things that are also outside of ourselves are elements of safety. What
yes,
happens when you let go of all your safety? You're
yeah,
probably going to feel really unsafe, really threatened. You're back in survival. So it's not a matter of having to wipe the slate clean before you get into this work. This work complements everything. And we don't want to judge any of the decisions or choices that we've made in survival either,
yeah,
right? Because we made those decisions with the information we had, and that was right at the time. And
yeah,
so I always say it's okay to do this differently. We can't put healing in a box. It's not going to be cookie cutter. There is no one solution or magic formula to this.
yeah,
And you're a living example of that. Like, it's okay for your healing journey to not look like someone else's.
yeah,
It's okay for it to bring in elements that help you feel safe. And
yeah,
for me, it's always been this question of, when I'm seeking support outside of myself, am I looking at it as the magic pill
mhm,
or as something that's going to support this evolution of safety?
yeah.
If it's supportive, go for it.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. And something that's interesting, I notice I get a lot of questions of like, did you have, your left pinky toe throbbing in the middle? Like very specific, like since someone's trying to find this exact replica of themselves and just know like you're not going to find that.
Yeah.
You're not going to find someone with the exact situation that you're in, and that's okay. And can we guarantee that everything is going to be to go away like with this work? No. But stay curious and allow that possibility to come into your mind. Like what if I could fully get better? What if my future could be different? And just allow that curiosity to come in. And I know something that you share a lot is if you aren't ready to believe yourself, borrow someone else's belief. You can borrow my belief. You can borrow Vanessa's belief. There are so many people that have healed. And it's an amazing thing. Now I am, living a normal life and I am able to do all the things that I once was not able to do when I was really sick and things that I lost and grieved over. And all those things have come back even more so than what I ever expected was possible. And so I'm rock climbing again, I'm hiking. I did a lot of traveling before I became pregnant. And then even during pregnancy, I did traveling and climbing and exercising.
Amazing.
And so yeah, it's been an incredible journey. And now here I am, a mother, and this is something that I didn't know if was ever possible. And um, that was something that was really hard for me in my chronic illness journey because in my head, growing up, I always thought I would be a young mom and be like, yeah, I'm gonna be like a fun, adventurous young mom and have kids early. And that wasn't what God had in store, but he had something better in store. And so I'm really grateful honestly to have gone through what I went through before having children because now I can heal alongside my kids. And I say kids, but I only have one so far. Hopefully, God willing, we will have more in the future. But yeah, I mean, it's a pregnancy went so well. Like I felt amazing. And this season postpartum has been tough. It's brought me a lot of challenges and I've kind of uncovered this new layer of healing and it's not that I've gotten sick again. That's not what's happening, but it's just like more emotional and spiritual healing that I've been experiencing and just realizing and figuring out what it looks like to just bring myself back to regulation and safety while being a mother. I know that that is something you can relate to, and it's I just like, what a gift to be here and to be learning this alongside my beautiful baby girl. She's 9 months old now, and she's just such so full of joy and light, and just like, I look at her and I'm like, I just I can't believe that God has entrusted me with you. It's such a gift to be a mom of this beautiful soul that I can just see, like, even though she's just this little baby, you can see it just bursting out of her. And um it's so incredible to watch and unfold, and I just look forward to every stage with her. So
Oh, oh, that's so beautiful, Rachel, and I know I had the pleasure of kind of walking along your journey of pregnancy as
yeah.
well, and, being able to witness that unfold and to see you as a mom now, it's just warms my heart, and she's absolutely gorgeous. Every time you post a picture, I'm just, like, swooning. But, this is a miracle, really, like, when you think about it.
Yeah.
Back in your early 20s, in that hospital bed, like, I vividly have images in my mind of where you were at. I remember them because that's just how much suffering there was there. And to see you now, I mean, if someone needed a hope rope, this is it. If someone is stuck in a bed feeling like healing is for everyone else, but it's not for them. Like, we believe this too, that same thing, right? And we have, Rachel here who, beat all the odds in a sense and is now not only living again, but she's thriving. Her life has expanded so much. And she's also a mother because I know there's a lot of us who have had to put our lives on hold or, different parts of our lives. And I know there's a lot of people grieving the fact that they're not young moms or, things didn't unfold in the way that you expected. And that grief is something that we've talked about a lot. How it's almost like you kind of move through the healing, maybe you get some more stability, and this grief just like hits you in the face. And you think about the time you missed, you think about the opportunities you missed. You think about how everyone else has kind of moved on, or maybe they're ahead of you in your life, your friends. I mean, it really does affect every aspect of your life from, your own personal journey and kind of getting lost, not knowing your identity or who you are and having to rebuild yourself. And then the grief of having this image in your mind of what your life would look like,
Yeah.
what your relationship would look like, what your career would look like, and it looks nothing like it.
Oh,
And that's where the grief kind of surfaces and surfaces to heal. And maybe you can touch a little bit more on like what that journey looked like for you.
absolutely. I mean, I love the way that you incorporate grief into nervous system practices and your work. It's so powerful, and it's something that we all experience. Like, grief is not just loss of loved ones, it's loss of relationships and hopes and dreams and health, and it's loss of expectations and what could have been, what should have been, and so we all experience that. It's a universal thing. And it's just, I love the way that you approach this with such gentleness and compassion. And um I before I was pregnant with my daughter Hazel, I had a really intense season of grief and loss, just in our family. It was like one of those, when it rains it pours seasons, and it was just really helpful to I would go into Haven some nights, like, when I just felt like this constriction in my chest of, "This is so heavy, this feels like so much," and it wasn't like I was getting sick again, but it was just that grief that was there, and just being able to move through it and bring it alongside with me, and in time, it became lighter, and it's just kind of, it's in the background and it ebbs and flows, and I'm still experiencing, new things with grief, but it doesn't dominate
Mm.
my life. Like, it's not, hindering me from living. It's just something that we can tend to when we need that
Yes.
extra support. And so, um, I love that you bring this to the table, because I think that, you know, some other programs and other nervous system support kind of leave this out. And I think it's so important. And there are a lot of people that don't even realize it. Like, I haven't had somebody that I love died recently, so I'm not grieving. And when you really look deeper,
Yeah.
there's often those layers of grief, like behind anger and resentment and all these tough emotions that people deal with, and underneath that can be the grief. And I know you've also touched on this in the past, but something I really realized the year, that, like, before I got pregnant with Hazel, it was like this big realization of, oh my gosh, life after chronic illness can just bring you to your knees. Like, it
Yeah.
can be so hard. And I think when you're in that space of chronic illness, you're like, nothing can be worse than this. Like, nothing could possibly ever
Yes.
be worse than this. And it's just, it doesn't ever make sense to compare. And I know that it's so tempting to go there and compare and be like, well, my problems are bigger than this person's problem, and it's just
Yeah.
like, where does that ever get us, And it's it was really powerful for me to realize that life is still hard, and that's okay. And what healing is all about is building resiliency for when these stressors and these challenges come in our life, because they're going to come.
Yeah.
They are. And that's okay. That's what life is supposed to look like. We grow through these challenges, we learn, and we just continue to build that resiliency and capacity. And it was just amazing to experience some of these really intense feelings of loss after chronic illness, and like building all this nervous system resiliency. And I felt like I went from, I can't do this, to like, I'm doing pretty good, a couple weeks or a month, and to go from such rock bottom low place back to living life in a joyful way. It was powerful. And I think that grief can kind of expand our capacity for joy. And I remember the first time after I experienced a big loss, sitting there in my living room with some friends that were visiting, and we just talked and laughed. And I was like, I'm just having such a good time. I'm having fun. This is what joy feels like again
Yeah.
after loss. And it's like it was deeper. I felt it
Yes.
more. And so, not to glorify grief or anything like that, but it is an opportunity when it comes to expand this capacity for all feelings, including joy.
I love that. I've taught you well. I'm like, yes, yes, girl. And this is so true. And so many people avoid going into the grief, into the hard, because they fear that it's going to bring them down. But the truth is, well, it's there whether you're looking at it or not. It's
Yeah.
there. The grief is there whether you're paying attention to it or not. But when you start to meet it with compassion, like with supports too, we're not saying we're
Yeah.
going to throw you into the pool of grief and let you drown, but when you start dipping your toe in grief and building the capacity to sit with the discomfort of it, it's exactly as you said. You build your capacity for all the other emotions, right? To be with the joy, the gratitude, the laughter. I remember even with myself, like that first laugh after my father died, and it was like a deep belly laugh, and it was so different. And that's this
Mhm.
beautiful example of grief and joy and how they coexist. And that's what you described. It's like, just because I laughed doesn't mean that the loss is gone.
Yeah.
But now I feel now I'm more present even. I feel like grief brings you
Mm,
makes you really present. There's this veil kind of lifted and you're like, "Oh, this is here." And you talked about the different, losses, and my favorite definition of grief is always from David Kessler, and he says, "Grief is the change you didn't want, that you didn't deserve." And I mean, think of all the changes in chronic illness in this journey. There's so much here. So I've seen your capacity for emotion expand exponentially as well. And like you said, it takes time to cultivate that safety too with grief, with all of these different emotions. And it's all about capacity to be with life. And life is going to keep coming. It's going to keep surprising you. And you can't ever fully prepare, but you can be resourced.
yeah,
You can have this knowledge, these tools, the supports, the people in your life
yeah,
that will help you move through that too. And that's exactly.
absolutely. And I don't know if you've experienced this as well, but after I experienced several really significant losses within a short period of time of loved ones, I felt like this just desire to live more fully, to laugh more, to do life for them
Yes.
and to just bring them along with me and like I don't know, it's been beautiful in a way to just want to go out and just live and love people more and just laugh more and be more present for those people that were lost and know that they're up there looking down on me and in some sense still with me.
Yes, I felt that too. I know exactly what you're talking about. And I think everyone who's had a loss like that can relate. And it's called making meaning, right? Making meaning not from their loss, but from their life,
Yeah.
and making the most of the time that we have here too. I always say, I'm like, I shouldn't be alive. You probably think the same thing sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what am I going to do with the time that I have here? Clearly, God has us here for a reason,
Mm,
and we don't always know exactly what that reason is. It unfolds over time, but
yeah.
he's using your testimony, and he's bringing hope to so many, and God uses everything. Like, nothing is wasted ever. And I know that your faith journey has also evolved,
Yes.
during your healing as well, and, like, kind of what does that look like if you wanted to touch on that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, my faith has always been an anchor for me, and I think even when I was sick, I felt like God just had this purpose for me. I didn't know what it was. I and even for a while I was like, is my purpose just to be sick? And I know we've talked about this before,
Yeah.
and I kind of wrestled with that, but I even in my healing journey with the brain retraining, the nervous system work, I always believed that God was the ultimate healer and that he designed our bodies to be able to heal. But I felt this resistance
Mm.
to fully letting him into my life and bringing him into my practices and my meditations and visualizations and all that. I don't know why, but well, actually, I do. But anyway, um, I've
Well, now
found
I'm
that
curious. Why do
yeah,
you think?
I think it was just honestly some repressed emotions and grief
Makes
that
sense.
hadn't been tended to, and I've kind of locked it in a box. Okay, we're just
Yeah.
gonna push that aside, thinking that that would be okay. But honestly, and it kind of was for a while, and then after my daughter was born, it just was a lot more challenging than I had expected, and she was having a lot of challenges. I mean, she's healthy, but, she just needs a lot of extra support, and so just adjusting to this life change with that and not knowing how to best support her, I felt like now I've realized that all along, God has been trying to show me through my baby girl that it's time to, fully let me back in. And I just as I've been doing that, it feels like everything has changed. I've just changed the way that I pray, and I'm just pouring out my heart to God, and also just trying to incorporate scripture and just these truths that God has promised us into my brain retraining. Like, God is renewing my body and my mind every day.
Amen.
God is walking with me. God is always there. And like, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. My situation is not unique. He doesn't say some things for some people, it's all things.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, even for you. And so just letting those truths kind of sink deeper into my heart has really been a game changer for me. And it's also just a testament that healing is something that, we continue on even after we're past chronic illness, even after we've recovered from that acute phase of chronic illness. It's always going to change, it's always going to look different. I just feel grateful that um, this new healing season that I'm in with my baby girl, that it's like God's been showing me um, that that I need to more fully let him back in, and it's like it's just felt so good. Like, why did I wait this long? And it's I've always believed in like, it's just there was just this shift where I felt like some of these truths I've always known kind of sink deeper into my heart, and and into just my own healing practices. Why would we not want to involve God in in our healing journey? And so I'm just excited about that. I'm feeling just kind of on fire with wanting to just share and encourage people with that, and it's been a game changer, that's for
Uh,
sure.
I
Yeah.
love that, and, yeah, same, I'm on fire as well as you know. And, the truth is too is as I see, there's a lot of people out there who don't have that element of safety,
Mhm.
even like like you said, I've been a believer my whole life and still couldn't fully let him in for whatever reason, right? And we're not judging that. He knocks and waits patiently for us. There's never any rush or forcing, and I wanna make that clear too. So if hear us talking about God, we encourage you, just like with your healing journey, make it your own, because God's gonna meet you, and he's gonna meet you in the way that you're needing, right? Like, he is intimate, he's personal, and you also don't have to force anything to unfold. And for me, I got to know God on this journey, and I had to build some safety first before I could even let him in.
Yeah.
And when I was in survival, all I could access was I'm angry at God. That's pretty
Mhm.
much like the only thing I could fully access, and kind of maybe even doubting. Maybe God doesn't want me. Maybe God wants me to suffer. And if that's the case, I don't like him. And right? So we have kind of the different stages and evolution of this. And what I'm seeing is that if you can't let God into your heart yet, don't judge yourself.
Yeah.
Work on cultivating that sense of safety
Yeah.
and let that go. And leave a what if there, right? Maybe when you're feeling a little bit more of that foundation, you can revisit what a relationship might look like. And that's the key here is relationship, right? Which, isn't something that's founded on like strict rules or you have to do it this way or that way. Relationship is intimacy with someone.
Yeah.
And when we feel safe enough, we can let our hearts open. So, you brought up this beautiful example of having your daughter and, you had this beautiful evolution of safety. Have always been a believer. And there were still some things to process. And then you had, your gorgeous daughter, and maybe your heart softened.
Yeah.
Maybe it brought in another element of safety or connection, like you said, a bridge to God. And now you're experiencing him in a different way. And even becoming a mother, like God is a father, he's a parent, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe even that could have been this catalyst for this new shift in your relationship. But I really love seeing that in you as well. I see the growth in that journey, and yeah, I'm on fire with you. So
Oh, I love it.
So tell us a little bit about what I know you've got your amazing Instagram channel and your YouTube channel, and there's so much. So to kind of tell us, you're a creator and an educator. What does that look like?
Yeah, so I have an Instagram account. It's at by Rach. Um, and I've got a YouTube channel. It's either at Healing with Rachel or Rachel Elizabeth. And there I'm just trying to share just resources for nervous system support for people who are dealing with chronic illness or chronic pain, and just trying to encourage people to believe that healing is possible and just share from experience some of the things that have really helped support my own healing and I've seen support many other people in their healing journey. And so just I really feel God calling me to just share and encourage people who have been through something similar. And I find so much joy um and fulfillment through that. And it's amazing to hear from people that are on the same healing path. And I just hope to be able to encourage others through that. And as I'm in this season of being a new mother, I haven't been super consistent with things like posting on YouTube and whatnot, but I definitely feel drawn to the longer form content because I love that ability to connect with longer, more conversational messages like
Mhm.
this. And in the future I'd love to do a podcast as well, but I'm just going to kind of follow God's lead and realize that in different seasons I'll have different capacities, but I know that this is a passion of mine and I hope to continue it for as long as I can.
Yeah.
So,
I love it. I can definitely see your passion for it and your heart in it. And I think it takes a lot for those of us who have recovered and healed to kind of look back and extend that hope rope to someone behind. Because many of us could definitely choose to just forget about all of this. For some it's really easy to wipe the slate clean like it never happened and forget that period of our lives, and that's okay.
yeah.
And that's not
Yeah, for
something we're
everyone.
judging. But there's some of us who feel called to help, to say, "Hey, I'm a bit ahead of you, and I wanna look back and show you the light and show you what's possible." And thank God for people like you, because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for somebody sharing their story and giving me a hope rope.
Me too.
And yeah, and I thought it'd be really powerful. This would be a really good reflection as to how far you've come. If you were to give us a snapshot of your day
Mm,
at your sickest and a
yeah.
snapshot of your day today,
Ooh, okay.
yeah, let's kind of see what that looks like.
Yeah, so oh gosh. At my sickest, it was laying in a dark room, barely surviving, honestly, living minute to minute, severe pain. I had pretty much a constant migraine, severe neck pain. I was experiencing non-epileptic seizures. When I was laying down, my limbs would like violently flail all night. I wasn't sleeping at all. I was up all night in pain. I would have these episodes where it felt like I was fainting while I was laying down.
Yes.
And it's so scary. Like I felt like I was literally losing consciousness, not like just tired. Like it was just deep, just like extreme feelings of exhaustion, whereas like my limbs just felt so heavy. And so, like, everything just felt too much.
Mm,
And, the symptom list just was
yeah.
very long, and just this feeling of like, how do I get out of this place? Like, is this even possible to get out of this place? What got me here? Why am I here? And yeah, just feeling like how could there be hope here?
Yeah. Yeah, and you're bedbound at this point,
Yeah,
not really doing anything. Alright, so we have this image now,
yeah,
the vivid image that I'm so sorry you went through. But now let's bring it to what a typical day looks like in Rachel's world.
yeah. So I mean, now being a new mother, it's just a lot of um caring for my baby girl, which is amazing. We like to go outside and just enjoy the fresh air and the sunlight. And um, I usually feed my baby girl like 10 to 11 times a day. I'm having, you know, lots of wake ups at night. And like, yeah, I'm still able to get up and function. And through most of my postpartum journey, I've been doing some form of exercise, and I like to go up and meet with other moms and family members. And I'm active in my church and
Wow.
just really able to do whatever I want to do. And in this season of being a new mom, it definitely looks a lot different, and that's okay. Like, I realize that that's okay and that my capacity is different. So, you know, traveling and things like that add layers of complication when you have a baby, but this is, it's all a joy. And even in the hard times. So, yeah, it's just, I mean, I think it's important also to say that I am like pain free on an average day. I remember I had one of my surgeons tell me, "You're gonna be in pain the rest of your life. Okay, your average is a 9 or a 10. We wanna get you down to a 4 or 5." Well, he
Wow.
was wrong. I'm at a 0 on average.
Yes.
Yeah, and even when, like, there have been maybe a few times since my girl was born where I got a headache or a migraine, but I know that it's temporary, and honestly, it's like this beautiful reminder to me that this is not my normal anymore. This is not my everyday, and even then, it's, like, so much less than where it was before, so it's just a gentle nudge. You need to rest a little more and take care of yourself a little more.
Exactly. It's just information, right? Just messages saying, "Hey, something's gotta change," or "You're going
Yeah,
at this, going 90 for nothing, and you've gotta rein it back a little bit." But, wow, just y what a contrast. What a
yeah.
difference. And, I mean, if that doesn't bring you hope, I don't know what will. And I would love for if you were to address someone who is where you were at,
Mm.
okay? Somebody who is at the worst, in the deepest, darkest pit right now. What what hope rope would you give them? What would you say to them?
Well, first of all, I would say, I'm so sorry that you're in this place and you are not alone. 100% not alone. And even though it might feel like there's no hope for better days ahead, there is hope. Absolutely, always hope. And I actually had a doctor once tell me, where there's life, there's hope." And I love that.
Oh,
And so just even if you can like have 1% of you just ask that question of what if I could heal too? What if my situation isn't unique? And I think that's this, it's so easy to fall into that belief of like, oh, everyone else can heal, but not me. I'm different. No, all things are possible through God,
yeah.
and our bodies are designed to heal. I mean, how incredible is that? I mean, even if it's just a small, like little paper cut on your finger versus like this big, you know, serious illness, given the right conditions, our bodies are designed to heal. And sometimes all we need is just that consistent safety. It all comes back to cultivating safety and just starting to do that in small ways and building as you build your capacity is what could make a difference. And just know like that there are so many of us, like me and Vanessa are just two. There are so many people that are cheering you on. Like,
Mm.
literally, when I hear people are healing, I just wanna, like, do a
Yeah,
happy dance for you.
we
Like,
have
I'm
to have a party.
so yeah, I'm so excited. And even, like, even if you haven't gotten there, but you're just starting to wonder, "Maybe this could be me," we are cheering you on.
Yes, we are.
And yeah, it's just it's possible. It really is. And, just remember to love yourself and be patient and gentle and kind to yourself because, we don't heal from this state of, like, shame or self-doubt or fear. And just, yeah, learn to love yourself, and that can go a long way.
Yeah, that was so beautiful and so much passion in that, as you shared. Clearly, we believe in this work and we believe in you. If you're sitting here listening, watching, I know you're feeling like you're too far gone or that you're broken. And we believed those for a long time. That was our story, that was our identity. And that is not our identity anymore. We are recovered, living full lives, and this healing isn't reserved for someone special. It's reserved for everyone.
Yeah.
And I hope that this brought you a little bit of that hope today and belief. So, Rachel, I will share all your links in the description below. And if you want to learn more about my membership, Haven, you can find that in the description below as well. And it was an absolute pleasure to have you on, Rachel.
Thanks so much for having me, Vanessa. I really, really enjoyed this.